Well, good morning. So nice to see you all. Beautiful day, beautiful people. We are still steeped in the teachings of Joel Goldsmith, and so I chose just to extend as our theme for the month of October, practicing the presence, still in that same book. And our topic this morning is love thy neighbor. That chapter starts out with a quote from Matthew 22, verses 37 to 39. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And one of the statements that Joel makes early on in this chapter that just kind of blew me away, I never ever thought about it in this regard, is he said, let us understand that anything of which we can become aware is a neighbor, whether it appears as a person, place, or thing. Every idea in consciousness is a neighbor. And it just expanded my overall awareness of that teaching of love thy neighbor. It's not just a person, it's everything. And it goes along, obviously, with the main teaching that all there is God. All there is love, and it is everywhere present in its fullness and its wholeness. And so when we are looking at any and everything, we are to judge with right judgment. We are to judge it not by appearances, so to speak, but by that wholeness that it is representing. And one of the ways that Joel puts it is that there is one self, and he capitalizes the S. There is one self that is expressing and experiencing itself as many. So what that makes us aware of is that what I do to another, I am doing to myself. And for many of us, it was kind of an aha moment that, well, I can look at that and say, well, if I'm doing something that's evil or something that's negative to you, I'm really hurting myself. But the flip side of that is if I am doing something of good, a report of goodness and wholeness, I'm actually doing that for myself as well. And because that goodness inside of us wants to express itself. One of the things that I think that comes through for me anyway, and as I'm reading this whole love thy neighbor, is that, and this oneness, this wholeness, this one self, is that we reap what we sow, and whatever we're putting out is coming back at us. One of the other items in this chapter that is so strong is that notion of forgiveness. When Christ was on the cross, then one of the 7 last words that he said was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I think that would behoove us to keep that teaching in the foremost of our minds. No matter what someone else is doing that we could assess as evil or negative, let that forgiveness come in. Let that forgiveness say they do not know what they are doing. I wanted to read to you on page 74 of the book, one section that reminded me of something. And if you're in class, you've already heard this, but that's okay. Let us never accept a human being into our consciousness who needs healing, employing, or enriching, because if we do, we are his enemy instead of his friend. If there is any man, woman, or child we believe to be sick, sinning, or dying, let us do not pray until we have made peace with that brother. The peace we must make with that brother is to ask forgiveness for making the mistake of sitting in judgment on any individual, because everyone is God in expression. All is God manifested. God alone constitutes this universe. God constitutes the life, the mind, and the soul of every individual. And when I read that, I wrote in the side margin of it, it reminded me of our process that we do of Ho'oponopono, where we look at an individual, and if we see something negative, derogatory in any way, we first say, I love you. Please forgive me. Forgive me for seeing that in you, and that I am sorry that that has happened to you and to me. And then we say, thank you, it is done, and we release it. And again, that's, to me, that's what I equate what he's saying, is that we don't see anything but the truth of that individual. Last week, we had the message of that witnessing the miracle. That was the topic. And if you remember, I gave a quote that Einstein had said, where there are only two ways to look at life. One is though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle, right? That's just the very first sentence of his expose. It goes on further to say, Albert Einstein furtherly said, but without deeper reflection, one knows from daily life that one exists for other people. First of all, for those upon whose smiles and well-being our own happiness is wholly dependent, and then for the many unknown to us, to those destinies we were bound by the ties of sympathy. Hello, Gay. 100 times every day, I remind myself that my inner and my outer life are based on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received and am still receiving. A human being is part of the whole, called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optimal delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Only a life lived for others is worth living. And I just was amazed at the extent and the vastness of his understanding of the wholeness of the universe, and how that we are all related and all interwoven one with another. I have been reading another book recently that someone loaned me, called Many Lives, Many Masters. And it's written by a psychiatrist who was able to take one of his patients into hypnosis and regress her. Well, she ended up regressing into all of these different lifetimes that she experienced. And he found then the reason why she had different phobias and different, fears and so forth, because of other things that had happened in previous lifetimes. But so at the end, I don't know how many, I think she came up with like 80 different lives or something like this. This is over many months that he was working with her. But right toward the end of the book, the psychiatrist himself was able to commune with what he calls the masters. And from the way it was described, it's like there's sages, there's mystics, the consciousness of them is living within us and around us. And so he was able to commune with these masters. And one of the masters told him that within each person there is a diamond. And it's a very faceted diamond. It has all different surfaces to it. And when you look at a person, What you want to do is look at that diamond. You want to see that pristine, a beautiful gem that is within them. And so many people, by unconscious or really unknown acts, end up covering up or uh, darkening the surface of their facets of their light. And so what we in our consciousness are zoning in and zeroing in on seeing that pristine light, that Christ consciousness within that person, regardless if they see it or not. That's what our job is. And so we are to remember that, if I am being negative in any way, look at myself. Do I need to polish up something? Do I need to remove some grime from where I am? We want to remember to let our brilliance shine through. When we do that, any sort of negative, any sort of, quote, evil that might come our way is diverted. And it goes back into the nothingness from which it came. So we are to know that as we sow, so shall we reap. And it feels good to do good. One of the things that he talks about a lot is the fact that we are here to serve. The Christ, that's what his whole mission was to give and to heal and to bring about the truth for each and every person that he saw in them. And we are to do the same thing. We're here to serve, to give. And it's not, we aren't giving of this individual self called gay, this little s self. What we are giving from and of and as is our big S self. We're giving from the infinite bounty and kingdom that is within us. It's the Father within that is doing all of these works through us. And so we mainly want to step that ego self aside and go into the depths of our wholeness. And from that, we can give and give with basketfuls overflowing. It makes our lives a joy to be able to share the love that we are. When you light a candle, it's one little light. And we see this when we do like candle lighting services. But when you light another person's candle, and then they light another person's candle, what ends up happening is that glow and that brilliance just lights up the whole room, illuminates it. And that's what we all, each of us, have the ability to do, is to whatever it is that comes into our consciousness that would be a fun thing to do, to give, to serve of someone, to someone, go ahead and do it. So I want you to look for ways to do your very best and to serve. One of the thoughts that Joel said was that everyone is here on earth but for one purpose. And that purpose is to show forth the glory of God, the divinity and the fullness of God. Do you feel that? Do you know that's the truth about you? That's the first thing you have to do. In that realization, we shall be brought into contact with only those who are a blessing to us as we are a blessing to them. What you have inside of you is drawn to you, and what you see from inside of you is what you see outside of you. So know that you have the kingdom of God within you right now. And no matter what is going on around us, oh my gosh, we are right now in the throes of political campaigns everywhere, right? We have about another month to go before we can stop getting all the junk mail and seeing all of the different ads and so much negativity. It's kind of sad to see the level of activity and accusations and all of that business. But I was surprised. I was contacted by the company that is the publishing company for Joel Goldsmith now. He of course has passed away, and most of his books have been compiled since his passing from his lectures. And there's a company now that's a publishing company that's organizing and bringing forth his books. Well, they've got a brand new book, and they became aware of me somehow or another. They read my thought for the week in the newspaper, and they contacted me and said, we want to let you know that we've got just published a book, a 2020 brand new one of Joel Goldsmith's, entitled The Government of Eden. And it's talking about his take on government. And I thought, wow, I'm eager to, I brought it with me today to show you. I just received it this last week, so I haven't even opened it. But wouldn't that be nice to think about government in the same breath as Eden? I'm reminded of Ronald Reagan's quote, government isn't the solution to our problem, government is the problem. So we only have like 30 more days left of this stuff. But again, it's an opportunity for us to see with the eyes of love, to see with the eyes of clarity, and to use good judgment, to use right judgment in this whole political process that we have in front of us. I wanted to share with you the last portion of this chapter, because I think it's a really nice summary of what he says throughout the whole thing. What is the principle? Love thy neighbor as thyself. In obeying this commandment, we love friend and foe. We pray for our enemies. We forgive, though it be 70 times 7. We bear not false witness against our neighbor by holding him in condemnation. We judge not as to good or evil, but see through every appearance to the Christ identity, the one self, capital S, which is your self and myself. Then it can be said unto us, Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee in hunger, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. We are all the divinity in operation, acting out our divinity and in correlation with each other. We cannot be separated one from another. There is a wholeness, there is a unity in this universe that is no separation. We are the same. We are equal. We are all whole and perfect God in expression. So love your neighbor, no matter if it's a person or a thing or a dog or a animal or a plant or a politician. We are to love that neighbor. And when we love that, it comes back to us and fulfills us. And that serving and that giving is what we are about, to give the glory of God to each and everything that we cast our eyes on. So let your love flow freely this coming week. Enjoy it. Be in peace. Namaste.